Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of The Bottom Line. I'm your host, Lauren Kalil. We're going to get right into it. We have Tommy Marquez, Brian Friend, a lot to talk about. We're breaking down the quarterfinals programming, the elephant in the room, another disappointment. The workouts were leaked early, guys. Ugh,
Tommy?
it's been a long day.
Man, it's just a tough one, um, I'm always the last to get this news based on where I live because I'm on the West Coast. So I woke up this morning, I thought early at 6:30, and people had been chirping all over the place for hours, and I'm getting messages and DMs and things like that, and letting me know what had happened. People sending videos asking if it's real, and it's tough because having some time to read the statement that CrossFit provided, as well as like the nature of how it happened. It was a single. It seems like it was a single point of failure, right? Like one person did one thing unknowingly, and it's a really tough pill to swallow, right? Like it's a tough scenario with something like the quarterfinals, and something that like there's been so much anticipation for, and we've talked about a bunch, and you just hate to see it. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously agree. It's not something that anyone wants to see, but it seems like it was just a mistake, and sometimes that happens. And I think that for CrossFit, it's kind of a extra bad feeling because it also happened, or something similar also happened a couple weeks ago with the last open workout. And so I don't think that this is a pattern that we can expect to see going forward with, if you're, the new CrossFit Games team or whatever. It's not this new team. It's mostly the same team, and they know what they're doing. And this was something that I felt like I could feel remorse in the tweet that they put out. Like They were really bummed about this. And I think it's like super easy to sit here and be very critical of them. But at the end of the day, the workouts came out later in the day officially. And I don't know about you guys, but we got right to work and had fun doing the workouts.
Oh man, yeah, totally.
We all have.
Oh yeah, and if anyone remembers too, like when you're dealing with such a dynamic environment like this season, where you have a ton of moving parts, stuff like this happens from time to time, and sometimes it gets more publicized than it doesn't sometimes. Like if you remember back to 2011, the first time they posted the first open workout, they accidentally posted the first and second workout. There was a tab there for 11.2 that wasn't supposed to be there, and some people got that workout early. And it's we're starting to see the wheels start to turn again, and all the cogs move in the right direction. And every once in a while, you have these single points of failure, and like Brian said, you could feel the remorse in the tweet, and you hope that, all right, this is a learning moment, and you build off of it and go for it.
Now, if the workouts had been terrible, I would have been more upset, but they weren't actually that bad.
No, me, Brian, and Tommy, I think we've done at least one of the same ones. I think workout number 2 with the ring muscle ups. How'd it go for you guys so far?
I got caught up on the rings a little bit. I got 18 pistols in the third round.
Ooh,
Oh, man.
even revealed his score.
Well, I'm not actually in the quarterfinals, so it's
Well, I every time I do a single-legged squat, it sounds like someone's shuffling a deck of cards in my knees. So I have to be very careful about how I lower down, and I have to be very methodical and very there's no cartilage in there. I'm fortunate to have never had a serious knee injury, so all the cartilage is gone from wear and tear. So I got through all the. I got into the third round. I got into the last round of GHDs. I had 5 left. I felt fine on the GHDs, felt fine on the muscle ups. My goal was to go like 7-3 on them, and I was able to do that each time. It's just a matter of like, I just can't do pistols fast. And, these long getaway sticks don't really fold up very well. So
they'll come in handy for some of the other workouts.
Oh, they will.
Yes,
They will.
So let's get into, the programming, what you guys think overall, and then we can kind of go through, if people haven't seen them yet, what the workouts look like. But just thoughts on programming as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I've been kind of talking about a little bit recently, just looking at the open programming, looking at the quarterfinals programming. And we'll have an article coming out assessing some of this as well. And I don't know if it's a negative or a positive critique. It's just, I think that in general, we need to like reframe our expectations for these parts of the season, because it's not the format that we used to have. This is, it's a new format. This is year 2 of it, and it's year 1 without Dave involved. So there's going to be some things that are different and new, but it's not necessarily bad. So we're just trying to evaluate and see. And I think that similarly to the open programming, the quarterfinals programming we have this year is a really good clue into some general things that we can come to expect from quarterfinals, assuming the season stays the same in years to come.
And we heard those sentiments echoed during the very first press conference after the Open by Adrian Bosman. He mentioned that some people need to start looking at each individual section as a complete test in and of itself, and start to look at the bigger picture and how each element of programming works in together and starts to thematically let the season unfold. And that fits in line with what Brian said. And I also think it's an exercise in caution and patience, because, there was the little breadcrumb of the floor plans being released. And everybody starts throwing out this and that and that and that. And it's fun to speculate, but like there was a lot of people dropping hammers on like what they thought it was going to be. And people kind of jumped the gun. And then it's like, oh, wait a second. We don't have the full picture. There's a reason why they released the floor plans, because they don't paint the full picture. And I actually think, it was fun to stir up some interest around it. And then, actually start to make our judgments once we have the full scope of what the programming is.
Sure. And I'll even bring up the first test. Brian, I think you said you also did this one today. Looking at it compared to what it felt like doing it, what is your reaction now?
I mean, this is stuff that I know how this feels to do. It's all stuff that I can do. Strict handstand push-ups I'm not very good at, but the combination here is pretty devastating. You get the walking lunges out of the way at the start. I think that it can be, depending on your handstand push-up capacity, a trap early with the 30. So most people should probably break those up, just even if they're good at handstand push-ups, and set yourself up for the middle chunk of the workout, because the front rack lunges into the deficit handstand push-ups, especially the overhead walking lunges, is where this workout's going to be won or lost.
Sure. And then the second one, this is the one that all three of us have done today. Tommy, what did you learn after doing this workout?
Well, I think there was me and Brian were actually talking about it a little bit beforehand, is that there's a ton of weird interference for the midline, and not just the midline too, but like hips and hip flexors and a lot of stuff going on that if you aren't comfortable with the volume of single leg squats, the volume of GHDs, and then you get up there on the rings, you're going to be in for a sharp surprise once you have to both hinge and arch hollow on the rings. And I actually think it's a evolution of what we saw last year with the pistols, GHDs, and the rope climbs. And I actually think I like this one a little bit better. I think it's a little bit more accessible. I think it flows a little bit better. And I think the isolation of a gymnastics movement that's more upper body pulling focused than say like a rope climb, where you're able to use your legs and you see that interference spot there. I think it just felt a little bit cleaner for me as a whole. And I felt like there was a better way to make it accessible to that 10%, but also, having that clear separator with the pistols and GHDs.
And when you look at this workout, you see a 25-minute time cap. That's one thing that stood out to me. And also the shuttle sprints. Tommy, you are a full foot taller than me. I think that you're going to crush this one, and my little legs are going to go very slow.
Oh my God.
Well, yeah, we'll put you back up for that.
I was going to say, this is going to be Lauren. It's going to look like...
Here comes Tommy.
Lauren's going to look like one of the caterpillars from Super Mario trying to run.
I think this just became my favorite episode yet.
Oh man. I mean, this is the one, like, it came out and I'm finally like putting up my hands like, we got one back, guys. We got one back.
It's the tall people workout. I'll pull it back up. The wall balls, but I think women and men have to hit the 10-foot target. What do you guys think about that?
Tommy, I would actually be curious to know, was there ever a time that women had 10-foot targets in CrossFit competitions early on? I can't really remember. I know that Bill and Chase talk about this all the time, and I feel like there's a a very big divide on this, where a lot of people have the mentality of if the ball's lighter, the line should be the same, or if the line's the same, the ball can be lighter. And then there's other people that were like, no, 14-9, 20-10, that's how it is. That's how it's always been. And I feel like it's pretty evenly split. And that was kind of the reaction that I got today from people that found out about it. Half the people were like, it's about time. And the other half were like, no, this can't become the new normal.
There definitely has been a time. I'm like racking my brain now because there were some times where it varied between individuals and teams. God, I'm picturing the rigs from some of the games in old regionals where they had the plastic piece with a line in the middle, and it's like my memory is big. I'm still got wad brain from all those.
And
pistols.
I actually think like the top probably 1 or 2% of athletes have already practiced this. This won't be a surprise to them. But for the other 7 or 8% of qualifiers for quarterfinals that aren't necessarily aspirational for semifinals, it might be a rare thing that you have a gym owner like Chase Ingram who makes that the normal thing for members at your box.
I guess I just wonder because even last year they had the 30-inch box for men and women, and then this year we see the standard the same for men and women again with one of the last workouts at least.
Well, it's also, there's a time component to shooting to a lower target as well. You've seen, over the course of, 50, 60, 100 reps, 150 reps in a workout, that extra foot where the ball doesn't have to travel in each direction, that's 2 feet total. Like you'll see some of the women in the sport pick up significant time on that implement. And, maybe it's about the same stimulus for them as far as going below parallel. But the time component element is another thing you have to factor in when you're looking at time caps and you're trying to make sure that people have finishing times that are somewhat equivalent overall. And I kind of like this as maybe a trial run here, particularly with quarterfinals, because I do think that some of the elite athletes will be able to feel much more comfortable because they likely train with that anyways.
Tommy, the other thing is women are awesome, so they'll figure it out and crush it either way.
Exactly.
Oh, come on. No, Tommy's just trying to beat me. That's what it's really about right now.
Hey, we've all seen that video of Sam Briggs, reeling an old poor Brent Fikowski on the ranch trail run.
Yeah.
We know that when all things are equal, some of the best women in the sport can go toe to toe. And so now, Lauren, the chickens are coming home to roost. You gotta get into that 10-foot target, baby.
First, I'm gonna do. Yours are going way too fast. You haven't seen me run before. It's very slow.
That's fair. Hey, all the years of getting in trouble in basketball and having to run lines, finally paying off.
But that does bring me to the next workout. Everybody in the open was like going crazy because there was nothing heavy, no barbell. Well, you make it to quarterfinals. Oh, wait. Where's the wrong one? There we go.
Yeah.
We have a barbell for the other total. Man, this one looks fun. It is fun. I did it already.
3 barbells. Yep.
Well,
yeah.
And I think this is another positive change from last year's quarterfinals. There were definitely a lot of people that acknowledged and realized if you have a 4-rep max front squat test, it's a single element weightlifting test like that, and the field is 6,000 or 8,000 participants in the bigger continents, that it's gonna have a dramatic effect on the leaderboard because there will be people that could beat you on all 4 workouts, and then there's going to be 500 people that can out squat them. And in the semifinal format, you don't get severely penalized for that. The most amount of points you can get is 0, or the least amount of points. In this format, if you score 3,000, you get 3,000 points. You could have 300 points on the other 4 workouts combined and have no chance to make the semifinals in that context. Now, you probably just need to be stronger in general if that's the case, but at least this year, we get 3 lifts. So you don't just have 500 guys that are amazing at bench press bumping you out of semifinals. They also have to be able to prove it with overhead squat and clean.
I also think it shows less of the hand as far as what CrossFit is trying to test for. Like you're getting a heavy pulling motion from the floor, an Olympic lift. You get a bench press, which everyone is going to, all the old the bros are just going to be pumped about. And then the overhead squat, which if you go back to the early days of CrossFit, is largely seen as kind of like the gold standard of, tying all of the elements of CrossFit together into a single lift. And I
always
think
tell
that
people that the overhead squat will expose any weakness, stability, mobility, or strength.
absolutely. And then now you have all three combined. To me, that creates a multitude of channels of like, okay, this is what we're filtering for CrossFit, without necessarily giving away one direction or the other, and still keeping a variety of options for semifinals if they decide that the strength test is going to be one of the two, pre-programmed workouts for all the semifinals. So, and it's also reintroducing classic CrossFit benchmarks into a stage of competition where we didn't get a repeat workout last year. So like, the new total showed up, 7 or so years ago, and it, people started testing it, and it never quite got the same amount of steam as like the classic CrossFit total. But I also think it's another time to kind of refresh the programming slate for people to be able to test this kind of stuff. Because I know a lot of people that haven't tested their max overhead squat in a long time, and they should. It's certainly something they should.
Yeah. And then finally, we'll go back to this one. Test 5. Yeah, end with a sprint, a 7-minute time cap.
Well, and this workout is probably the most similar to its counterpart from last year, being the workout 5 that had the snatches at the same weight and burpee box jump overs. But this workout, I think, is again a step in the right direction in terms of accessibility, because if anything is going to limit a quarterfinal qualifier here, it's the barbell weight. And at least you get to do the first 50 reps and then give yourself a chance. Because if you last year couldn't snatch the weight, you couldn't register a score. It just was a dash on the leaderboard. So this is, I think, encouraging, along with the first workout, that instead of having strict handstand push-ups first, has them later in the workout. Now everyone who qualifies can at least get started with each of these workouts this year.
Yeah, and even when sorry, go ahead, Tommy.
I was going to say, as someone that like, there is a clear like downshift in my ability to move that load. I like this workout a lot better, right? That first round of the 963 last year, which is same weight. I felt good on the 9s, and then I started to struggle in the middle of the workout, and it got a lot tougher. And I feel like in the very least, there isn't so much interference in those two movements in the front that a lot of people, it might be a good, almost like a primer for some of that, depending on how you pace it. And then you only have to worry about one set. And I think it gives a little bit clearer finish line for a lot of people. And I think there are going to be a lot of people that have an opportunity to say, if like you're a lighter athlete and this might be a PR for you, this is a format that you might be able to see some really cool moments for people as well.
Looking at the big picture of all 5 tests, even when we saw the floor plans released, the equipment released, we noticed that there was some crossover. They're very similar in many ways to the test from last year. Do you guys think that this is just an improved version of almost like the original blueprints?
Tommy?
Maybe. I think they may have taken some inspiration from it and looked at it and found, all right, what are some ways we can improve? Because I will say, through 2 of the tests so far, they feel very different in application. So I think, in some instances, you don't have to completely reinvent the wheel as far as like floor layouts. But I think there's a big difference between what it looks like and how it plays out in practice. And that is the distinguishing factor for me. That's ultimately where the rubber meets the road and what happens as far as like the quality of the test for me. So it looks like they're looking at what they've done in the past and finding ways to improve it, which while also creating some new elements and improving upon tests as a whole that I think also makes them different.
Yeah, and I think it's important to acknowledge that, because I wrote about this quarterfinals continental preview earlier in the week, and I talked about like this stage of the competition is really, really important for actually a large number of athletes. To qualify in the top 60 in Europe or the top 30 in oceanic regions are very difficult. And also, if you're a male in North America, there's guys that are 121 through 200 that are just as good as guys that are 80 through 120. It's deep and it's difficult. So the test needs to be well-rounded enough to make sure that the people that are getting through are going to, really the hope should be that everyone who's going to semifinals looks like they belong there. And I
Do you
think that
think
this
these tests
test
are
I think this test is on the right track to do that.
do you think that they're better than last year's programming?
I would say overall yes, and I think that just the accessibility at the start of them, there's I think more balance in some of the volume of some of this even similar movements, and then the diversity of the lifting test I think is kind of like the icing on the cake that makes it a definite yes for me.
Maybe it was just me, but I thought maybe we would see a repeat in quarterfinals since we didn't in the open. Do you think that it was necessary, or do you think that this is fine to just keep moving forward with the programming as is?
I think it kind of depends. I still would have liked to see a repeat in the Open, but I do think having a classic CrossFit benchmark in the quarterfinal programming, in some ways, kind of half checks that box, right? Because it is something that you should probably be seeing, in your affiliate, or something that you have come across before in a previous training cycle or in a previous year. Our good friend and degenerate Joe Genitin Palawa is programmed this in his affiliate, earlier this last weekend. So, I mean, he talked about it. He programmed it for one of the weekend classes this last weekend. So it's something you see. So it's a indirect repeat, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's I know that a lot of people were disappointed in the lack of repeat in the Open. I'm hopeful that there will be repeat workouts in Opens to come in the future, but I think that it's also it's really okay if if there isn't one here and there, because some of the nature of CrossFit's origins is being unpredictable, and the repeat workout in the Open became predictable, even though there could be a ton of them. And now there's this big question mark there. Well, they could bring one back, but what if they don't again? And I think that that's okay for keeping people on their toes and guessing and not sure of what to come, because that's part of the job of the games team, is to keep one step ahead of everyone else.
And Adrian Bosman echoed that too as well when they talked about the heavy lift in the Open in the press conference. He said, "Hey, there wasn't one this year, and it may get you thinking there might not ever be, but there might not." And sometimes you have to introduce doubt into that. And to me, that's like, okay, now we're starting to get somewhere a little bit. Like sometimes.
Well, and in particular with the heavy lift, if he brings it back next year, then it also breaks the trend of every 3 years and makes it even that more unpredictable.
It debunks all of your graphs and your data and everything in Brian's brain.
No, it just forces me to remember some of the original principles of CrossFit that it's sometimes is easy to forget.
Sure. So what is the bottom line? Are these good tests to find the next people to advance to semifinals?
I'm gonna say yeah. I think you're gonna see, and already having watched and seen some semifinal caliber athletes do these in unison with people who aren't. There is still very much a clear divide, and there is a broad enough spectrum within each test, from what I've seen just in the regular affiliate and people of different levels, to be able to do that effectively. I think if the range of skills is fairly balanced, and I think the time domains is a little bit more balanced here as well. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see a more balanced leaderboard as a result.
Yeah, I would also agree, and I'm glad you mentioned the time domains. It's kind of the one thing we haven't touched on, and it looks like there's nothing that short, but the 30-minute time cap is actually that's 3 1-rep maxes, which you'll obviously do a couple lifts, but that's a very short time domain for the score that you end up establishing and the work that you do to get it. Then you have that burner at the end, like it's a 7-minute time cap, but that's a 3 or 4 minute workout for the best, and it's going to be small margins. It's it's going to be a classic. Might even be faster than, I don't know, about 30 calories rowing for the women, but it's gonna be small margins like we're used to seeing at a semifinal final event, and that'll be fun. And the athletes will know that they have to push, because 5 seconds could be 30 spots in North American or something like that. And then you have a couple kind of classic time domains, but like Tommy said, there's 2 15-minute time cap workouts. You may say, oh, that's a little redundant, but actually there's going to be plenty of people finishing those workouts in the 6 to 10 minute range. And if you have a 6 and a 9 minute workout, that's okay. And if for someone else it's 10 and 12 minutes, and for people like me, you get time capped on both. So there's a little bit of a range there in those. Like, don't be deceived by the 15-minute time cap. And when CrossFit's testing for this stuff, they're looking at what the best are going to do, and they see, okay, that's 30 seconds of listing. This is 3 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes, and then we have the 20-minute workout.
Yeah, and it's like you said, and even within the longer time domain, the 25-minute cap one with the wall balls, like, you know, there's going to be some people that, you know, finish in 18 minutes or so, maybe even.
I can't
faster.
wait to see what the fastest time is on that one.
And then Lauren will be lucky to get through the first, you know, shuttle run.
And I was at least going to give her like the pyramid of the spectrum, but you didn't even give her the first run.
She's going to be long jumping each one, full run at long jump.
She's going to set up
Thank you for making me the bottom line's punching bag, guys.
Yes, little water stations along the 30-foot course.
Thanks for the positive encouragement and so much faith in my fitness from you guys. I really appreciate it. Brian, what's your bench press?
It's probably similar to yours.
Oh, there we go. Now she's firing back. Now we're talking.
I'll own that. I'm not very good at bench.
It's fair.
Hey. Did you do the total yet, Brian?
No, I will do it tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Let us know how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Well, Brian Friend, Tommy Marquez, thank you guys. Great conversation, you know, going over all of the programming, our initial thoughts. Good luck in the rest of the quarterfinals workouts, guys.
Okay, thanks, Lauren.
Likewise.